Doubtless you've seen the news already. A lot of people were asking while I was streaming the raid. Unfortunately, couldn't really respond to it properly then, but we're going to do it right now. So patch 9.0.5. This is a bombshell, frankly. Didn't expect this patch at all. I guess you should have, because WoW had data mined something about it a while ago, but before BlizzCon, don't forget, BlizzCon comes in 2 weeks, pretty much from a couple days ago. So this is kind of a big deal, actually talking about this before BlizzCon. This means they probably have insane stuff coming for BlizzCon, or, well, let's not speculate on that yet. But either way, a lot has been said. So one of the biggest things so far is confirmation that my original thoughts on what they should do with loot has been considered. And even though it's not my ideal situation, it's very good. Also, they've also confirmed that this will drop in March, which is kind of surprising. So yeah, let's just have a look at. We'll read this whole post. We might as well just read this whole post, but then we're going to go over the class changes. So let's get through it. So anyway, the update will be a bit different from our usual patches. It's focused almost entirely on systems, responding to community feedback about rewards, doing tuning that requires the sort of notice and iteration that a PTR allows, and fixing a range of bugs that are beyond the scope of our ability to hotfix. We know everyone is eager to hear about the next chapter in Shadowlands and the new adventures and rewards it will bring, and we have a lot more information on that in the very near future, so that's BlizzCon. In the meantime, we'll use this patch to get changes into your hands faster than a large content patch would allow. Here are the two of the changes you'll see in 9.0.5, further iteration. Okay, so Return of Valor. This is like the biggest thing. Okay, so again, I made a whole video on this about a month ago. I don't think anybody really thought that this was out of the realm of possibility based on what they said. And it's happening, basically. So Valor points. And we talked about this on stream today, too. So Valor is the actual currency. I think that's the smart choice. And it's not what all these people wanted from like a vendor or something like that. It's much better. This is a much better system. We've seen a lot of feedback about the pros and cons of the various sources of gear in Shadowlands. After a rewarding first few weeks, we know that many dungeon-focused players reached a point where the only relevant rewards came from a system that comes from the Great Vault. While the Vault should represent a major goal and the source of the best rewards the endgame has to offer, we want to find a way for the loot from the chest at the end of a challenging Mythic Keystone run to feel relevant without bringing back random upgrade systems such as Warforging, which partially solved this problem in the past. So it's really good to hear him say this out loud. I'm eager to hear what BlizzCon has to offer now, because they actually understand what the systems that they removed caused, like what damage they did to the game. And that's excellent. We also want to provide a more consistent reward for the effort to players who don't receive an item at all. A framework for a system that attempts to address these goals should be present in the first PTR update, subject to ongoing tuning and refining. Gear from Mythic Keystone dungeons is now upgradable, initially with a cap of item level 200, which players can raise to item level 207 by completing all 8 Shadowlands dungeons at 5 or higher. This will reward a new Keystone Explorer achievement, while the existing Conqueror achievements for 10s will increase the cap to 213 and then to 220 from Keystone Master. The currency used to upgrade Mythic Keystone gear is Valor, which is earned by completing Mythic Keystone dungeons or by doing Covenant callings with a weekly cap. Upgrade costs will vary by item slot and will be consistent with all item levels. So let's talk about this really quick. I think, obviously, it's a great idea. I guess I should say, what are my thoughts? A lot of people wanted some stupid vendor, and I just don't. I mean, like, listen, they're not going to allow you to buy 220 pieces. Like, just use that number now, since that's the upper limit. They're not going to allow you to buy that. It's never going to happen, okay? You have to actually get the gear. You have to get the stuff from the content, all right? So this is the right play, because it gives you something to work towards, and if you're really unlucky, you can just, farm lower keys and just keep upgrading them. But honestly, like, now, like, 16s, 17s, 18s have gotten so easy to finish. You're getting more and more loot from this. Like, this is really going to pick up any pieces that you still need a lot quicker. So the question everybody should have is, how fast are we going to obtain Valor? What are the caps on it? And what does that cap allow you to do? I thought there was a topic. I could have swore it said, maybe I just misread it or something, but I could have swore it talked about like how the upgrading system would scale based on the item. But I assume that they're going to do exactly like they did in PvP. So for example, I don't really know this myself, but you probably know more, so you could already apply the logic to it. But like PvP, you could buy like one weapon every 2 weeks or something like that. And then maybe one pants and then 1 bracer. Like you know, pants are more than a bracer, but you get more than you need for the pants, and then save some of it for the bracer. So it's like, I think this is probably what they'll do. And I think it'd probably just automatically upgrade to 220. I don't think there's going to be, well, it's items at 200. I need to go to 207, then 213, then 220. But we don't know for sure yet. So I am a little disappointed, though. What I'm disappointed in is this doesn't have anything to do with content besides Mythic Plus. So I don't necessarily think it needs to happen in Raid, because that would be kind of weird. Upgrading Heroic gear to Mythic gear doesn't really strike me as the right approach. But I do feel like they missed like world content and also Mythic Zeros. I thought the best solution to this whole system was some kind of ladder that you can climb with upgrading gear. So if you really got unlucky in Keystones over and over again, you just do Mythic Zero, which has way higher chance to drop loot, right? So then, like, there's a penalty, like, you're starting at 184 instead of 210, but you actually got the item you want. So, like, most people complain, like, frankly, a lot of people who misunderstand the situation complain that they can't get any loot at all, which that's very short-term thinking. You're complaining about something very short-term, when in reality, the actual problem is that you can't get any loot that you actually need permanently from this source. You still can't, okay? It's only 220, but that is such a good step in the right direction, especially for alts and stuff. So we'll see how it works on, like, you know, because right now, Keystone Master is an account-wide thing, right? If I get the mount, I can use it on any character. But I guess it's not an account-wide achievement. It's just a reward for it is account-wide. So I assume you'd have to do all 15s on all these characters. We'll find out. But it's still going to be tough, right? Like 213 gear with all 10s or higher is really, really easy to get. But then the jump from 10 to 15 is huge, and it's only 7 item levels per piece. So I don't think this is going to just completely solve everybody's problem. But again, most of the people's problem is something that's just really short, like narrow vision on it. You're talking about getting loot. It's like, dude, this season's going to last for 6 months. You know what I mean? Like, the loot will eventually drop. It's the problem that you get this loot that's 210 that nobody wants. So good. I'm glad to hear this. Okay, so Covenant and Legendary tuning. We've deliberately used a very light touch with any hotfixes that might affect Covenant or Legendary balance, as we're keenly aware of the resources players have invested in those systems. A patch, however, allows for ample notice for the community and a testing a feedback loop that should ensure that we don't unintentionally undermine your investments in your Covenant or Legendary. In many cases, the changes coming in 905 are improvements to Legendary items and Covenant abilities that have been separately or comparatively less used by players. Our goal with these changes is to provide more gameplay options for crafting and utilizing Legendary items in specific situations, and to make sure that players feel the Covenant that suits their aesthetics, narratives, or other preferences for their character also feels more viable. We'll have a number of bug fixes, tuning adjustments to other systems, and other changes coming to the PTR. So I'm really excited to see what else is coming. But here's maybe the biggest thing. 9.0 is available to players to go test it, blah, blah, blah. We greatly appreciate your bug report. Wait, where did it say about March? Anyway, it says something about... What? Anyway, it's... Okay, could have swore... Oh yeah, it says it right at the start. I guess I just missed it. Which is now testing and expected to be released in March. So it's like insane, honestly. Like, I don't know. They're probably just behind with it. And they're like, okay, we should definitely get it out. But like, I don't think I've ever seen PTR go live and like, by the way, this is coming in March. I don't think I've ever seen that. Like, never. So this is kind of a big deal, honestly. That they're actually going to confirm this for March. So, I mean, it's February 9th. Like, obviously, we still have a while to go. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's obviously not coming out March 2nd. Probably going to come out late March. But, you know, at most, we have 8 weeks before this is coming. So, in that time, you can go farm the items you still want. Realistically, in 8 more weeks of the weekly vault, you'll probably need a lot less loot anyway. But it's a great option. So let's take a look at the actual class changes, though, because there's a lot of stuff, and I really want to go on with this. Also, Ian has said raid tier needs help too. Raid gear needs help too, but the static nature of raid loot tables complicate mid-tier solutions. We want to get dungeon improvements out ASAP as we continue to discuss the right approach. So yeah, he also mentions world content, so that's good. I'm really glad to see that because that's really important. But yeah, I guess at least he's aware, like they said. So let's take a look at the... Why do I keep not seeing it? Class changes. But yeah, so there's a lot of class changes. I don't know why I can't keep finding this. I posted in the guild chat. Let me get it up. But anyway, a lot of class changes. There's actually a bunch of covenant changes that we really want to see. Okay, that's fine. All right, so let's take a look. So first of all, we're going to go through all of this. Fleshcraft grants a much bigger shield and offers a large damage reduction during the channel. This is, by the way, probably the biggest buff they've done. It's absolutely insane how big this buff is looking like it's going to be. Death's Due and Shackle the Unworthy have been buffed, which I think is a mistake. Buffing Shackle the Unworthy is kind of insane. But yeah, the Night Fae thing, you're going to love it. Fodder to the Flame has been reworked. Your damaging abilities have a chance to call forth a demon from the Theater of Pain. Throwglaive deals lethal damage to the demon, which explodes on death, dealing damage to nearby enemies and healing you for 25% of your maximum health. The explosion deals reduced damage beyond 5 targets. So I don't actually know what the CD is on that, but that's interesting. It also nerfed the... these are the cooldowns. These are conduits. Yeah, so this is a big nerf to the Elysian Decree one. Apparently it's a big nerf. Adaptive Swarm and Endless Thirst conduits have been buffed, which I'm surprised Adaptive Swarm itself hasn't. See, like, this is actually... the spell has been buffed. But these are just the conduits. Restoration Druid Rejuve has been buffed. Hunter, their 2 worst performing Covenant abilities have been buffed. 3 of the ones that aren't being used a lot for Mage either have been buffed, although Mirrors of Torment is being used a lot for Frost, apparently. Renewing Mist and Vivify costs less mana, but not much. Holy Shot costs more mana, but also not much. Vanquisher's Hammer has been really changed. Spirit Shell been nerfed, but not by much. Kiss of Death and Cauterizing Shadows, these are legendaries. These are the only actual legendaries that are listed here. And then a bunch of stuff that we don't actually play, but Impending Victory. So let's take a look. Also, Conqueror's Banner has been completely reworked, which I think is terrible, honestly. I think this is even worse than it was, but I guess we'll see. Anyway, brandish the Conqueror's Banner, granting 400 mastery and 30% increased movement speed to you and your 2 nearest allies, and preventing movement speed from being reduced below 100%. I think that's worse. Is that worse? 400 mastery? How much is that? Is that a ton? Yeah, I mean, it's more than I have, so I guess it's a ton. Yeah, okay. It's numerically going to carry it, I guess, but that is like 30% increased movement speed for you and your 2 nearest allies. Now, can we just get the damage buff for the rest of the group? I don't... Okay. Anyway, so... yeah, I'll have this down below. There's probably stuff that you definitely want to see here. Service and Stone down does physical damage. I don't know, but I definitely want to look at the class stuff. So again, where have you seen this before? If you watched my videos on these spell diffs from the beta, where we looked at every single one, I have no idea what this means, but we're going to look at it anyway. Apply Aura modifies damage and healing done. So that looks like a blanket buff. Value is 138.6%. Death Strike and Death Strike offhand, just in case. And then it's removed AMZ. So what are you talking about? I don't know. Does this mean AMZ is getting nerfed? I have no idea. I really don't know. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know if it makes sense to anyone, but it looks like it's a 138% buff to Death Strike, or that's already in the game, and now AMZ is going to be 138% weaker, which I don't think that's possible. Go with that, make it a 10% damage reduction. I guess maybe I should go on the beta and find out. And then also removed modifies cooldown. Affected spells. I mean, this doesn't exist, right? I don't know what any of this means. So, Relish in Blood had a really big change up there with any Pharaoh Druid changes we saw in the beta. Death and Decay, Scourge Strike hits all. Now it's like a bunch of spells. I don't know why it says that, but anyway, Defile has been not changed. One thing about D&D in general is it's got like a charge system, which makes me think there might be a new legendary coming that gives you 2 charges of D&D or something. I don't know exactly what's going on there, but I've seen that in Night Phase stuff as well. Eternal Hunger, this is a conduit for Unholy that we're not using. But yeah, you'll see no actual changes. Oh, it shows initial too, that's funny. That's good. It's just showing it per spec now, I guess, is the difference. It's interesting. But yeah, it doesn't seem like any actual change. The big thing is that it just says charges now. It's got a charge. D&D has a charge for some reason. Okay, anima powers. You know, these are cool, but let's not worry about that. Here's where it gets interesting. So let's take a look at this. Death's Due. Obviously, I play Night Fae. A lot of people do not. What they're trying to do is make it more attractive, I guess, for people. And I think, unless I'm misunderstanding this, they have done that. Oh no, yeah, okay, so Jix was right. It is still a maximum 8%. But either way, Death's Due reduces damage enemies deal to you by 2% up to a maximum 8%. Okay, so yeah, that's not as strong as I originally thought it was. I didn't see that. I guess that makes sense. But anyway, it's going to make it a lot easier to build up the stacks. There's very little time that in 5-mans you're actually getting the full 8% on every target you're cleaving. So this is a big deal, honestly. Like, just making that spread quicker is going to be really good for 5-mans. But yeah, no other change to that, I guess. I still don't understand this part. It's certainly a lot worse than this here, which has been buffed to 8% damage reduction and dealing a lot more damage. So, and then still spreads like it always does. Shackled and Unworthy is actually looking really good. And honestly, the more I think about it, the more I think Kyrian is going to be an absolutely spectacular covenant for Blood DK. But yeah, so no changes at all to the Necrolord and Venthyr Covenant abilities for Blood DK. But 2%, I thought it was going to be up to a max of 16%. I don't know why, but still, that's very good. It's going to make it a lot easier, 5-mans, to maximize the spell. That's the big issue. And we're just going to keep getting more and more haste, which is going to be huge. Okay, so Demon Hunter, we already talked about this. Fodder to the Flame. A bunch of anima powers again. I wish that wasn't on there. And then the Conduit. So Elysian Decree's second sigil thing, I guess I assume people are probably using that. Went from 25% to 15% at the low end and 60% to 36%. Jesus. So that's a big nerf there. Covenant changes, nothing like that for Demon Hunter. So I'm surprised they didn't nerf Elysian Decree itself, but I guess the Conduit was their target. Resto Druids, Redrew, we talked about that. That's pretty good. Adaptive Swarm, this is the actual Covenant ability. I see. So I misread the original post, I suppose. They did actually buff the actual Adaptive Swarm spell, which is probably still not going to see any play because Convoke's just too powerful, but interesting choice. And Endless Thirst, also been buffed, but this is the Conduit. So it starts at 8.8 and 1.9. And something that Jix has mentioned to me is that this Conduit does not function. I believe him, but I'm surprised. You know what I mean? But maybe that will be fixed by the time it comes out. And then, meager buffs to Death Chakram. I do feel like these spells probably needed better buffs, like 31% attack power instead of 27. That doesn't feel like that's that much. And again, anima powers that we don't care about. And then Flayed Shot as well. This is a bigger buff, it seems. 87 up to 1125%. And then also deals 25% increased damage, the kill shot thing, and lasts even longer too. So it's a pretty big change. Mage stuff, a bunch of stuff. This is cool. I'm really looking forward to this spell, Deathborn. I love this spell. I want to play a mage and use it. It now lasts for 25 seconds and it increases the damage you deal by 15%. So that is awesome. I love that spell. It's so freaking cool looking. And then the Mirrors of Torment one. Whenever mirrors consume, your fire blast is reduced. I'm trying to figure out what it does for frost. Does it not change for frost? You gain brain freeze. So yeah, no actual change to frost's interaction of it. I guess that makes sense. It's already pretty strong apparently for frost, but Radiant Spark is getting a big buff, and same deal there. Could be bigger, but we'll see how that plays out. And again, this is only the first week of this. Renewing Mist went from 2.2% to 2.1%, so that's going to make Mistweaver the best healer. Anyway, Vivify 4.1 to 3.8, so I mean they needed it, obviously, and that's an anima power. Now, Holy Shock has been changed from 14 to 16%, which, I mean, again, basically doesn't change anything. I mean, these are really small changes. And then some wording changes, but here's Vanquisher's Hammer. So think about this for Prot 2. Throws a hammer at your target, dealing a bunch of damage and empowering your next Word of Glory to automatically trigger Light of Dawn or Shield of the Righteous. So I guess the change was... Oh, it generates a holy power now. I guess that's the big change. It didn't actually get buffed, Damage-wise? I thought it was also going to get buffed damage-wise. That's actually the only change, right? Oh, that's interesting. Look, it even says initial on it. I'm so keen on this now that I've been leveling these characters. So that spell actually gives you Shield of the Righteous even as initial. Interesting. Okay, anyway, Priest, Spirit Shell, 80% instead of 100%. So that's a relatively big nerf, but I mean, it doesn't really matter. Kiss of Death, that's a rune. Oh, that's a legendary. Okay, I don't really know anything about the Priest stuff, but let's go on to the other stuff. This is just a wording change, apparently. Shaman has not been changed, really. I guess they buffed Fey Transfusion, which is good. Lightning Shield, a big buff when you get attacked by Lightning Shield. That's going to be great for leveling, for sure. Primordial Wave, like, why did that get buffed? That's already really powerful, isn't it? Okay, and what else? That's it for... Oh, Vesper Totem, too. That's pretty good, because I like that a lot. I'm surprised to see them buff Primordial Wave, though. Okay, Malefic Rapture. Like, what the fuck kind of number is this? Is this some kind of joke number? People are, like, freaking out about this in the Warlock, like, segments of the game. Like, I'm talking about freaking out. Like, this is the biggest nerf that's ever existed, and this number doesn't even make sense to me. So that doesn't seem like that big of a nerf. But anyway, that's it, I guess. Impending Catastrophe, that's the Venthyr ability, so that's a small nerf. Or small buff. Okay, let's take a look at arms. Or warrior in general. I really want to see warrior do well, so I hope that there will be more to this. But they've effectively done nothing. It's kind of unfortunate. They buffed this really crap ability that nobody cares about anyway. And I guess it'd be better. But that's pretty much it. So it's also changed the conduit. But yeah, they basically just made Impending Victory. This is like an arms talent. I don't get it. This is probably the case for all abilities like that, like not just arms. Killing an enemy that yields or honor, experience or honor resets the cooldown and makes it cost no rage. Oh, okay. That's actually a big change, isn't it? Huh. I really like to see Impending Victory used, honestly. I think that's one of the best talents in the game and nobody takes it. I'd like to see Warrior. But, okay, now, so let's go to the, where is it? General Covenant abilities, I think. So, somebody was talking about, okay, so here's Fleshcraft. So let's read about this. Is insane. Absolutely insane. To the point where I think this is now gotta be the best tanking Covenant in the game again. We were talking about this a lot. You know, people accurately called me out saying that it's not a good ability. It is a good ability if you compare it to the other 4 options, which was always my point. Like, it's the only one in the actual game that helps you survive directly. Obviously, Chiron does in some degree too. It just sucks as an actual ability. So regardless of that fact, it's basically irrelevant. Well, guess what? It no longer sucks. Form a Shield of Flesh of Bone over 3 seconds. So that's a pretty aggressive change because it used to take a long time to channel. Now that makes it easier to use. I think they should even make it 2 seconds. But anyway, and absorbs that damage equal to 40% of your maximum health for 2 minutes. Now that is a big change, but it's actually just they're kind of like changing the way it works. So now it used to channeling near a corpse claims their essence to grow the shield up to 50% of your maximum health. And that could be really useful. So it could technically be a nerf in that sense because now it's just always 40%. But look at this. While channeling, your damage taken is reduced by 30%. And that was a big deal because channeling it would basically just completely negate it if you were in actual combat. So just nobody would use it. And that's what everybody was saying. They're like, you can't use it in combat. You're just going to die or you're going to take more damage than the shield offers. Like you can't use it in between packs in Mythic Plus because you're just wasting time for your group. So it's like, okay, that's still going to be an issue, but a 30% damage reduction. And first of all, I think people like spend way too much time talking about parry and dodge. It's like, yeah, while you channel that spell, you can't parry or dodge. But I don't do that often anyway. Like for real, like over 4 seconds, how many times do you think I'm going to parry and dodge in 4 seconds? Like once or twice, maybe? Like really, you know what I mean? So anyway, moving near an enemy's corpse consumes their essence, reduce Fleshcraft's cooldown by 1 second. What? So this is insane now. I mean, legitimately insane. Actually, what is the even CD? I don't actually know. It's a 2-minute CD, right? I think that's how it works. So this is ridiculous. I mean, this has actually got to be the best in the game now, right? It's like moving near an enemy's corpse consumes their essence. So let's just think about it. In 2 minutes, how many corpses would you run through? I mean, in Plaguefall, if you pull all of those slimes, what's there, like 20 slimes there? So that's at least 20 seconds off the CD, right? I mean, you could legitimately have this up back to back if you did something crazy with it. Like, what counts as a corpse, I guess so. I don't know. This is wild. I'm really surprised to see all this happen. And somebody said something about the Night Fae blink, but I'm not seeing it. So anyway, that's pretty much everything. I'm really shocked that this patch has come. And I'm really interested in seeing what continues to come out of it. So let me know. I'm eager to see this upgrade stuff. You know, it's a great idea and it's a really, really good change for the future. But to me, it doesn't really matter. Oh, that's why it was pinned. To me, it doesn't really matter. Like, legitimately, I need 1, 2. I mean, I guess technically, well, no, that doesn't count. 2, 3. I need 3 items that would be upgradable right now. That's actually it. And then I guess a chest piece. That's because I have Brindoors on. Or I don't have Brindoors on. Typically, I'd have this set up on. So yeah, it's the same thing, 3. So technically I need 4 items so I could have legendaries mixing and matching. Am I not going to have these at 226 by the time this patch comes out? No, I'm going to have them. You know what I mean? So it's like doesn't actually impact me, and it probably won't impact most people who are playing the game actively right now. But it doesn't matter because it's such a good change for the future. And now you could start, you know, preparing for it. Get your alts to 15 in time, see what happens, and sky's the limit, man. So thanks for watching. I'm eager to hear your thoughts on this. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next one.